Hello and welcome to another episode of Pacifist, an educational series covering all the ways to avoid a murder charge by having others kill for you. In today's lesson, we look at the Paleto Score.
Hello, Franklin.
What's up?
At long last, our all-inclusive, multiracial, multi-generational, sexually ambiguous, differently abled group of morally challenged idiots and Gustavo are finally prepared to do what every criminal dreams of, stealing millions of dollars to give to the government.
Is that work for everyone?
After dropping off Franklin so that the local yokels don't immediately call the cops, the rest of the gang heads to the bank.
Everyone on the floor! Now! You and you! Out from behind the counter! Keep an eye on our trusted employee! My eyes!
Showcasing what I expect we all will be wearing during the next pandemic, I bust out of the bank to confront the cops that have been alerted to my presence. As usual, it takes just one look at what's below my waist for everyone to want a piece of me.
Sweet mother shit.
Now, it may surprise you to learn that all the enemies here, like my commitments to diet and personal hygiene, don't really mean anything. All that matters for progression is shooting down the helicopter, which obviously I didn't want to do, because killing is bad, or something. Are you shooting at the helicopter? I'm just gonna go hang out in here. Wait, what? While I was unsure why Michael died, it seemed obvious that giving Trevor a try at the helicopter with his minigun made the most sense. That's some good shooting, Trevor.
Why is she still flying?
I don't know. He clearly should be dead. Who died? He just fucking... What even killed him, man? I theorized that the characters were dying after a certain amount of time once they reached their destination. I therefore decided to try and use a car to block them from us. Okay, well, let me drive. Oh. That's not nice. So what I want to do is prevent Trevor from going to where he normally is meant to go. My car is about to explode. Okay, that's not how I should have achieved that. I did eventually succeed in blocking Trevor, but he would still drop dead from nothing if the helicopter wasn't taken down fast enough. I had hoped to continuously switch characters to prevent this, but the game locks me after a short time. I couldn't even change their weapons or leave the area. Then I'm out of ideas. Unless, of course, calling the cops does something. I'll call the good cops on the bad cops.
Hello, this is not...
Oh.
Thank you.
I don't think the cops arrived. Michael hasn't died yet. I'll take that back. So I had to shoot down the helicopter, but I will use mods to explain why I won't count the kills as mine. Here I've given myself a railgun, an explosive weapon, and I shoot the helicopter from miles away. The helicopter doesn't explode. Instead, it teleports and starts a scripted sequence where everyone in the helicopter dies. I'm not killing anyone, a scripted cutscene is. The helicopter could be 1 inch off the ground when I shoot its tail, the script will kill them anyway. And those guys dived out, they're fine.
Hey, don't worry, it's amazing what modern medicine can do.
They're fine. Well, I guess I have to destroy the fence, man. It's not very pacifist fit. Things were not as easy in the next scene. They were far, far easier. Gustavo and Michael mowed down all the enemies while slowly progressing forward. It was as if the rockstar gods themselves had taken pity on me for my prior suffering and had decided to go easy on me. They can destroy cars, they can kill enemies. This is the best NPCs I've ever done. You watch, there'll be like one guy. Oh, well, there you go. There you go.
12 seconds later.
What are you doing here, Private?
Oh, that's not good.
Kill myself.
If only. If only.
The situation wasn't entirely bleak because my allies could still kill some of the enemies, just not enough to enable me to progress. Now that I was in a new scene, I had to again try all the simple stuff before I went to more extreme measures.
No! God, please, no!
I unsuccessfully tried to change their weapons from their default, so I went back and removed all their ammo except for the explosive kind to try to force them to use something else. When the game gave them ammo when the mission started, I proceeded to manually remove all their ammo. Sub. I am showing my appreciation for the mini-sub mission by carving its name into the wall here. One thing I will say though, buildings in this area are made very well. Having finally removed all of Trevor's ammo, I switched away from Trevor to give the AI control. What? Bet I got rid of all that ammo. How are you doing this? Like a modern day Jesus who decided to expand away from bread, fish and wine, he was always able to produce more bullets from nothing, so I couldn't make him use an explosive weapon. So regardless of how many times they've stood me up, I had to try calling the police and a taxi again. What can I say? I guess I'm just a sucker for the cold dead eyes of a serial killer.
Would you send out a cab post-haste?
I'm really sorry. I don't have any free cars right now.
Of course, neither showed up, as is often the case. Surprisingly, I could actually leave the area, going as far as I wanted, as long as Trevor and Michael didn't get too far away from each other.
God, please, no!
To keep Trevor and Michael together, thus avoiding a mission fail, I tried to put them both in a jeep at once so I could drive wherever I pleased with the end goal of getting a tank. He won't get in. Oh, got it! I got it! No! Michael, get out! No! What? No way! Okay. This is not going to be comfortable. This just can't be done. Sadly, the only vehicle I could use was a jeep that some enemies arrived in. I couldn't even warp into other vehicles by blocking both their doors. But fortunately, there were two jeeps. Less fortunately, they were not very cooperative. Have I tried shooting the army men? No. How could I ever inflict harm upon my fellow man? In a video game of all things. So... I despawned! Fuck! No! No! I therefore had no choice but to move Trevor and Michael while only one of them had a car. It was really slow, so I hoped to find a second car on the road and then drive them both to get a tank. I think traffic is just turned off. I think it is. This will take thousands of years! So if there are no cars, why will there be tanks? Dang. Now realizing that no cars anywhere on the road might mean that there will be no tanks at the military base, I used mods rather than running there for an hour to check for them. Alas, despite having a 5-star wanted level, no vehicles would spawn anywhere. This is thoroughly disappointing. Look at these guys just walking down here. Die! Again using mods, I confirmed that Michael and Trevor could indeed get into, and use, the tank to kill all the enemies. I decided my best course of action would be to store a tank at Trevor's airfield and get the tank from there, as the military base was clearly not an option. So first, as I've done in previous episodes, I left the mission to use Cletus's side mission to store the tank at the airfield.
Hey, bud. What you do?
Nothing.
For those unaware, being on this side mission makes it so you cannot get a wanted level. Therefore, it was a simple matter storing the tank. A less simple matter was going back into the Paleto Score mission and running to Trevor's airfield in my very bulky armor. This is going to take 30 minutes? Is that all?
You underestimate my power!
Many waddled away, waddle waddle. 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 Many waddled away, waddle waddle.
You're kidding. You can't be serious. Don't do this to me, man. No. In hindsight, I probably should have checked with mods that the tank would be there rather than running there for half an hour. So I knew a tank would enable me to progress through the scene, but after trying to store the tank and obtain it from every possible location in every part of the mission, I gave up, concluding that it wasn't possible without mods. With the tank off the table, I thought I was back to square one, but then I noticed that Michael was immune to bullets. This was strange because while my allies are always immune to bullets, anyone I'm controlling should take damage like normal. I was also confused why I hadn't noticed this before, as I had been experimenting with this scene for quite a while at this point. The issue turned out to be that he was only immune on my first attempt, and that is why I didn't notice originally. So if I mission fail and restart the scene, he is no longer immune to bullets. Sure, he could still die from explosions, but Michael's immunity now gave me the freedom to herd the NPCs wherever I wanted, like some sort of really bulky armored sheepdog. Now stop me if you've heard this before, but it seemed like my best bet was getting them in front of a train. But I couldn't do this while Gustavo was around, as his presence would give them a target, so they had no reason to follow me out of the area. I therefore went back to pick a different ally, one who was willing to be the first one to die, and at the very beginning of the scene.
Hey! Through here! Our boy's pinned in! I can't feel my legs! I can't feel my legs! Do something! Pull this off me, you dicks! I can't feel my legs! I can't feel my fucking legs!
That escalated quickly.
Having now been scarred for life, there was nothing to prevent the enemies from following me to the train. It turned out, however, that only 4 would come, but that still seemed like a good start, so I put Trevor halfway between the train tracks and the original area. This allowed me to move back and forth with Michael without mission failing due to being too far away from him. So, will they go inside or will they follow me? It seems like they're following me. This is good. This is good.
This is impossible. You can't be alive. You'd have to be a god.
Nope.
This game is mean. So apparently taking damage from trains is now optional. If you get hit by a train, you should harden the fuck up and walk that shit off. My next idea, driving the enemies to die via fall damage, was a complete failure as well, and apparently the guy at the ammunition with a shotgun is out for lunch. So I went back to try and save Daryl from death just to see what would happen. Apparently subverting fate makes Daryl into some sort of a god that really likes firing his gun. Additionally, only 4 enemies would spawn, which Michael could kill easily, which would be great except the game softlocks after that. I thought maybe killing Daryl would enable me to progress, so I used mods to test fall damage and throwing him out to sea. Neither was very effective. I eventually managed to have Daryl die whilst only having the 4 enemies spawn, but there was no change, so I was still stuck. Further finding out that the other crew made no difference, I resigned myself to determining the minimum amount of guys that I needed to melee in order to move forward. I didn't know at the time how much of a colossal pain in the ass this would end up being. Firstly, I needed to present each enemy to my allies to test which they could kill. If the enemy's outfit was clean, I would assume they had not felt the loving caress of a barrage of bullets, and so they were untested. Getting the enemies to cooperate and go in the right direction was often quite the challenge. Pray. There we go! It was that guy. So it is 6 specific guys that they can kill. In a sane world, that is where my testing would end, as I could then melee people until I could progress. Alas, in different attempts it would require me to kill anywhere between 2 and 6 people. I therefore had to spend dozens of hours testing every insane theory on what could possibly have influenced this difference. What? That makes no fucking sense. I don't understand. There were a lot of things that I tested that didn't end up mattering, so I will focus on what did, like this apparently healthy soldier. When I switch character, the character I switch to will sometimes still be firing their gun. Occasionally this would result in me shooting someone, often without my knowledge, but even when I saw it happen, the enemy would get back up, so I assumed everything was fine. But watch now as I tested how long it can often take for them to actually die. So he's fine. Oh no, here we go. This was just one piece of the puzzle, that I sometimes killed people unintentionally. Later on, I noticed something else. What? Wait, whoa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How did we get 7 dead now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How? What happened? It turned out that, at the beginning of the scene, on rare occasions my allies would manage to kill 2 enemies in quick succession, one of which they are not normally able to kill. They also seemed unable to kill this enemy at any time afterwards if they didn't do so at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What the fuck? While I had no idea why this happened, I was fairly certain it would mean I only had to melee 3 enemies. 1, 2, 3. They still didn't progress me, what the fuck? It should be obvious that all the enemies are not programmed the same, despite that they all use the same model. For example, only some of the enemies seem to respawn. What the fuck? Do these guys? Hun, let's try these 2. See, one guy respawned to the front there. 2 guys respawned to the front there. Okay. I came to believe that some enemies might be more or less important for progression. First, you have the 6 guys that my allies can kill as long as I have Gustavo. A weaker gunner means lesser killable. Next, you have 1 extra guy who is sometimes killable by my allies. After that, you have 4 guys that won't respawn and will follow me out of the area. Lastly, there are 4 more guys who respawn but do not follow me out of the area. Unfortunately, I was very limited in my ability to test which I needed to kill because they all look the same. If I killed Gustavo after my allies had killed the 6 enemies, I could drag out the following enemies so at least I would know who they are. But obviously that would give me personally another kill and could skew the results anyway. So my assumption is that all the guys who are coming with me are the guys who don't respawn. Didn't respawn. Didn't respawn. Didn't respawn. Yeah, okay. So this made it seem like I needed to kill 3 enemies to progress forward, but every time I tried to replicate this, I failed. I would need to kill 4 instead. Perhaps I was never able to kill the exact right enemies, or perhaps some other oddities were afoot. On many occasions, I left my PC going trying to see if things would change. In this attempt, after 2 hours of no additional enemies being killed by my allies, and the 6 already being dead, I walked out of the area and a random enemy disappeared off my map. Why? I have no idea, but I did pass in this occasion by only meleeing 3 enemies. After all of my time in this scene, do I understand it? No. Despite that, I will say that in rare cases it does seem to progress me with only 3 kills. Finally moving on to the next scene, Franklin manages to find himself a magic bulldozer that somehow enables him to stand up to the shooting of the military despite having 4 gaping holes in the cockpit. Honestly, I'm not sure where he got it from because I know from running around it wasn't in the construction yard. Wait a second, how does the military know that Franklin's involved with the heist? Do they just shoot at him because... Whatever the case may be, we decide to abandon Gustavo to the military and head to the chicken factory. Don't worry, Gustavo does manage to get away from the tanks. While on foot. Somehow. So we don't lose the money. In the chicken factory, we find more military than can be found in the entire area. For some reason. I can run past them, which will force these guys to move up. See, I run past them so they kill them. See, Franklin's just gonna get fucking wrecked. Franklin? Are they killing them? They're killing them. Okay. So it seems as though as long as I run past them, they'll run past me and take them out. I just need to hope that Franklin doesn't die. Franklin's gonna die. Don't kill Franklin, please. Don't die, Franklin. Oh, please don't die, Franklin. Don't die, Franklin. Look at him just getting laid into and he's not dying! Oh my god, I can't believe I just got through that! What the hell? After a surprisingly easy finish, we get off the train to find Steve and Dave's protege.
Agent Sanchez, I'm a friendly.
How am I supposed to believe that when he's wielding such a dangerous weapon? He could have killed someone.
This is a big win.
Oh yeah, that's a huge fucking win. Woo!
Sadly, we have to add 3 more melee to the total, but at least I didn't need to. This was an extremely hard episode to make, but as I've already recorded footage for upcoming missions, I know it won't be the hardest. I want to thank all my patrons for giving me positive feedback on previews for the episode. It helped me soldier on and get it done. If you wouldn't mind liking the video, I'd appreciate it even if YouTube will likely bury this. I hope you're all doing well.